Fever down! Bow!
Man, I think it's the next step up mentality as far as players. Our shifts keep changing. Everybody doing a different role, and so I think we all got the mentality where you give and you sacrifice, and I think that's what y'all see.
Caitlin was the reason everyone came. Clark. That was the hype, the headline. Why more than 20,000 fans crowded into the arena. However, when the celebrity was excluded just before tip-off, the majority believed that the Indiana Fever would fail. Rather, the subsequent events became one of the WNBA's most impactful moments. Season. In addition to winning, the Fever, not having their best-known player but Kelsey and Aliyah Boston veterans, Mitchell took the initiative, assumed command, and made post-game remarks so audacious that caused the league to tremble. This wasn't an anomaly. This served as a warning.
Out this morning that we probably need to hold out again today. It's just it really is a day-to-day thing, and I think for us, making sure that we're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness. It's anybody who's had some of these types of injuries understand that sometimes it's a process. She's a quick healer, and she's been doing everything that she can to get back on the floor. So we just want to make sure that we're hypersensitive to the big picture.
I think for us, it's about knowing that basketball is a game of runs. And they made their run in that third quarter. And honestly, just continue to stay composed and take it each possession at a time is something that we've been working on. And so for us, that was our focus, is get a stop, go down and score, get another stop, and we try to get a kill.
This was intended to be the match that supporters had highlighted since the draft on their calendars. Evening. Comparing Caitlin Clark and Paige. The top pick from 2024 is Booker, compared to the 2025 top choice. The WNBA's future is in the forefront, therefore. So electric and loud that the Dallas Wings changed the game's typical 7,000-seat arena to the enormous American. The NBA's Airlines Center is home to the Mavericks. More than 20,000 fans purchased tickets, with many people paying high prices for an opportunity to see history. However, only 2 days before to tip off, the story split open. Caitlin's groin injury resurfaced, and all of a sudden the big matchup that everyone was anticipating was at risk. Head coach of the Fever, Stephanie White, clarified that they refused to jeopardize their stars' long-term health for a single evening of excitement, although medically sound, leaving fans irritated and doubtful. Social internet was ablaze with disappointment. Commentators began questioning if the Fever could even compete without a franchise focal point. Additionally, to be fair, those doubts were warranted. Only one evening previously, Indiana had been destroyed by Sparks of Los Angeles. The group looked flat, jumbled, and completely lost. Without Clark in charge, the offensive stalled. The defense broke down. Aliyah Boston hardly received any contact. It was such a performance that shouted, "This team can't function without her." Thus, when Dallas's game day finally arrived, the majority anticipated a catastrophe. Admirers arrived expecting to be let down, considering that the Wings would slam a Fever squad was outmatched and exhausted. The press prepared for another Indiana collapse. Headlines. However, what actually occurred instead wasn't merely unexpected. It turned the whole season upside down. Due to Caitlin Clark is absent from the Indiana Fever, they blazed, not crumbled. When a team loses its top player, most coaches take precautions, adhere to the system in the hope of preventing damage. However, Stephanie White, head coach of the Indiana Fever, didn't adhere to that plan. She tore it, got up, and did something that no one anticipated. Ari McDonald is being added to the starting for the first time this season in the starting lineup. It was more than just a change in lineup. It was a total change in identity. McDonald's hit like a lightning bolt across the court. From the first hint, her enthusiasm was indisputable. She increased the pace, She assaulted the rim. She made lanes where none existed. Additionally, inside minutes, a noteworthy event occurred. Indiana was unable to miss. The Fever struck their first 7 consecutive shots. That's historic, not just hot. The Wings were taken aback. The crowd seemed perplexed. Additionally, McDonald appeared to have been anticipating this throughout her career. Dallas, meanwhile, rushed to adapt. Ari continued to breach their defense. Separate. Not only was she scoring, but she was causing mayhem and making room for her teammates to prosper. Mitchell Kelsey began looking for clean looks. Aliyah Boston had been deprived of physical contact, was unexpectedly dining the previous evening. Down low, the distance between floors appeared crisper, the action more fluid. It was such as Clark's absence compelled the Fever to learn how to play again as a team, and it was successful. By the conclusion of the Indiana had erupted in the first quarter to a 3,313 lead. Take a moment to process that. 20 points. Advantage over a group that was intended to bury them. Additionally, the most surprisingly, Ari McDonald performed flawlessly from the field throughout the first several minutes. Excellent. Her stature wasn't merely a declaration. It broke all expectations. This was no mode of survival. This was something quite different. It was brave. It happened quickly. It had no fear. And it demonstrated that Indiana possessed far more weapons than anyone had anticipated. At the perfect moment, Indiana appeared on the verge of sail to an overwhelming victory. Paige Buers, determined that she would not let the nightfall disappears without warning. Why she was the best, everyone. Overall selection in 2025. The Dallas Wings are 20 points behind and the audience becoming agitated. Booker's trapped in, and her actions during the following 2 quarters were nothing but renowned. She began analyzing the Fever is like a surgeon in his defense. Pull-up, backdoor cuts, jumpers, and a lack of eye helps. She made everything appear simple. Gradually, the distance started to reduce. Her momentum was fueled by the Wings and the audience that was startled into. Early on, the quiet began to roar back to life. Fever's overwhelming lead faded. What appeared to be the jubilation began to seem like a trap. By the end of the fourth quarter, all around, the lead had decreased to just 1. Paige Buchers was wearing digits. Among the most pristine performances in history of the league. When the last statistic, jaws hit the floor as the sheet fell. 27. 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 points, and 2 blocks, as well as no turnovers. That had never before in the history of the WNBA. Not by a novice, not by an experienced. No one. It was the type of show that wins and alters narratives. Games which initiates careers in superstar status. Booker's did not simply appear. She took charge. Additionally, it briefly felt as though the Fever was ready to release. Everything disappears. You sense the growing tension. The arena's patrons were anxious. The bench for Indiana seems tight. The same breakdown indicators that plagued them in earlier games. Reluctance, defense that is slow, and missed rotations began to slink back in. It was the precise type of momentum change that frequently teams that depend too much on one are doomed. Missing the superstar. However, this time, there was a change. Because instead of collapsing, the Fever became more intense. At that point, Kelsey Mitchell forced her to make a move. Paige Bucher was breathing heavily, their momentum swinging and necks brutally to Dallas' advantage, the Indiana. Someone had to take charge for Fever. And Kelsey Mitchell did just that. Did no flash, no panic, simply poise. And the instinct of a veteran. Mitchell possessed. Been cooking since the beginning of the game. However, in the fourth quarter, she changed into the heartless closer. Indiana was unaware of the necessity, although the Wings' main goal was to stop McDonald's breaching and keeping Boston out. Mitchell interpreted each defensive move as an experienced chess player. She didn't compel anything. She gave the order. Mid-range daggers, pull-up threes, and well-timed slices to the rim. Whenever Dallas cut the lead, Mitchell used a suppressor in response. At night's end, her stat line stated everything. On 11 of -17, 32 points. Shots, 0 panic, and 7 assists. However, statistics didn't fully convey what she provided them. She instilled faith in the crew. Why was her performance so outstanding? Wasn't only the figures. It was the way she took the lead. Although younger athletes may have fractured when subjected to a 20,000 hostile fans and a falling lead, Mitchell took the opposite action. She reduced her speed. When necessary, the game pushed the pace when the chance arose and discovered open shooters during double teaming. Arrived. She planned each possession, similar to a conductor, maintaining her comrades active and self-assured. This was identical. Player frequently ignored by the media's fixation on the same veteran, Clark, who has long been working hard in Indiana prior to the news reports. And now she was demonstrating to the whole WNBA that there was more than one star in a fever. They had a leader and a closer. Mitchell kept quiet on the court. She allowed her game speaks. However, following the victory, her post-game remarks would reverberate even more, because her subsequent statement didn't simply protect her team. It contested the whole story. Following the match, Kelsey Mitchell was surrounded by cameras. The same soundbite was desired by all. How? In the absence of Caitlin Clark, did the Fever win? However, rather than avoiding or sugarcoating, Mitchell leaned into the moment, coding, and released a declaration that sent a reverberate around the league. She gazed directly at the reporters and stated, "People should begin learning about our entire roster." It was composed, straightforward, and unquestionably packed in a single statement. Mitchell did more than simply celebrate victory. She challenged him, an obstacle to the media, which frequently focuses only on Clark, an invitation to fans who attend in one player's uniform but overlook the names of the women who are next to her. Additionally, a opposition to the league, which is only starting to understand how profound and this Indiana team is really scary. She didn't harbor resentment. She was straightforward. This squad is not a one-woman show. Display. Mitchell has experienced each and every reconstruction, every losing season, and every coaching shift. She has observed teammates arrive and depart, and she's witnessed her year after the focus shifted away from her. However, now that she has led her squad through one of the most breathtaking victories of season, she was ensuring that nobody ignored them once more, and the reply was immediate. Social media exploded. Clips of her quotation went viral. A few admirers commended her self-assurance. Other people accused. Mitchell is accused of disparaging Clark, but the intention was never to split. It was done to demand that Boston herself and, for McDonald's, the group that just demonstrated their ability to prevail when it counted most. She was not mistaken. In Clark's absence, the Fever performed as a team, without fear, without dynamic. Instead than merely filling the void, they reinterpreted it. However, if Mitchell's Aliyah's statement rocked the room, Boston stated that it would stop shortly. Everyone in their wake, due to the fact that the 6-word response wasn't merely a summary. The future was defined by the night. After the commotion subsided, the interviews proceeded. Aliyah Boston's turn came. In order to take the mic, just got off. A 21-9 rebounding effort. She had all fine to discuss her game, but rather, she provided a time that encapsulated the whole essence of the evening in just 6 memorable words. Each and every. The game is played at home. Easy, strong, was completely shivering.
Boston
Wasn't merely discussing the Fever's performance. She was paying respect to the wave of Indiana supporters who had made the trip. People travel hundreds of miles to fill the Dallas arena. From buzzer until tip-off, voices reverberated throughout the structure, stifling the domestic audience and encouraging each episode of Fever. Boston sensed it too. Every shout, every basket, every pause.
It
Wasn't played on the road. A takeover occurred, became the catchphrase. Snippets of her social media was inundated with statements. It was repeated by the broadcasters. Fans of Fever put in their biographical information. It did more than only reflect just one game. It represented a trend. This wasn't a group led by one participant. This group was led by faith in one another and their expanding army of admirers. Boston's remarks have a more profound significance, she recalled. Everyone who might attend the games. However, they depart for Caitlin Clark, falling for the entire group with her internal toughness with Mitchell's McDonald's speed on fire. That's what a true team culture looks like. Boston, too, was fully aware of what she was doing by putting it in words. That instant wasn't merely filler after the game.
It was a
Pivotal moment since, with a single sentence, Aliyah Boston clarified the meaning of this. Franchise is an acronym. She was explicit. The definition of the Indiana Fever is not. They are defined by who is absent, appears. Additionally, if each arena seems to, good luck attempting to stop them at home. The events in Dallas weren't only it was an awakening, upset. For the majority of the Indiana Fever were in the season, as if it were a one-star show. Accompanying Caitlin Clark on her tour with some names surrounding her to complete the list. Highlight reels were broadcast by media outlets of buzzer beers, Clark's step-back threes, and laser passes, frequently removing before revealing the play's winner. Thousands of tickets were purchased by fans wishing to visit their preferred university. Superstars continue to make history. Additionally, while Clark has fulfilled the expectations, without her, Fever demonstrated something much more significant. They are no longer a one-dimensional group. They are an issue for the league as a whole. The victory over Indiana's record was moved to 88 by Dallas, firmly positioning them in the center of the Eastern Conference playoffs. That may seem minor, yet taking into account how the season began, marking a significant change ahead. They also didn't barely get by. The Wings. They ruled for a while, stretched, persevered in the face of hardship, and when it mattered, they finished strong. Everybody, without the player they talk about the most. Resilience like that doesn't just occur in a single day. It is the outcome of Kelsey Mitchell and other veterans own the moment of athletes such as Ari McDonald, taking center stage with nothing